was lying on the examination couch, and the doctor was running the ultrasound sensor over my stomach. If only everything would work out. But suddenly, the doctor stopped and looked at me in horror. My heart was pounding, and then the doctor breathed out. "Your child is a demon." My heart sank, my vision blurred. No, not that. I didn't even think about getting pregnant before. In high school, I had the love of my life. Hero. I thought nothing could separate us, but then I found out that he cheated on me. It was a big blow. And I couldn't trust the guys anymore. Because of that incident, I turned into a wild child. I hung out endlessly and changed guys like socks. But one day, my life changed dramatically. I met Fred and I really fell in love. Of course, at first, I denied it and thought we were going to have an affair for a couple of weeks. But Fred wasn't like the other guys. He took care of me, always helped me, and never once let me doubt his loyalty. He wasn't interested in anyone but me. I tried to distance myself, but Fred kept asking me out, making me feel better with little things. And I didn't even know I was falling madly in love. So, instead of a couple of weeks, we met for 6 months, and I could not imagine life without Fred. Only with him did I truly feel happy. After my dates with Fred, I traditionally met with my friend Lara. We went to college together and she knew everything about me. So, the day after Fred and I celebrated our 6-month anniversary, I went to the cafe to meet Lara. I told her in detail that Fred had given me a surprise. He had arranged a picnic on the embankment. He ordered my favorite Italian food, the best wine. And then, when we were talking, he danced with me to the singing of street musicians. It was so romantic. But for most of the story, Lara was interrupting me. She always did so. She wondered what kind of movies Fred liked, what kind of wine he drank. I stopped paying attention to it a long time ago. But when I finished speaking, Lara suddenly declared that Fred was not a match for me at all. I almost choked on what I heard and stared at her in shock. What do you mean? Lara told me that Fred was a womanizer, and I was just a toy for him. He didn't love me. My jaw almost dropped. What made her think that? Fred was not a cheater, but Lara persisted, saying at the first opportunity Fred would run away to another woman. I couldn't take it anymore and shouted at Lara to shut up. Fred and I had been together for a long time and we loved each other, to which Lara said that we would break up anyway and left. I was completely lost. What happened to my friend? We had never had a fight before. And why would Lara think Fred was a womanizer? I went to college the next day, hoping to make up with Lara, but she was nowhere to be found. Strange. Maybe she was sick. I went to my locker, thinking, and froze. It was as if someone had poked the lock open. I quickly opened the locker and all things were in place. But then my eyes fell on the white envelope. I didn't remember ever having one. There was a note in it and a pregnancy test. Unused. I didn't understand anything and quickly read the note. Someone was congratulating me on my pregnancy. What an idiotic joke. I slammed my locker shut and decided to order a pizza in the dining room. My favorite food always calmed me down, but as soon as I ate a piece, I almost threw up. What the hell? I loved Italian food. Then I remembered the note from the locker and the test. I shivered. What if it was not a joke? I looked down at my stomach. It seemed that something moved inside. Oh no. Dropping the pizza, I dashed back to the locker and pulled out the test. My heart was pounding as I ran to the bathroom. I needed to find out now. While I waited for the result, I mentally prayed, don't let it be 2 bars. I squeezed my eyes shut and examined, looking at the test, and at the same moment, my heart sank. This was not a joke. I was pregnant. What should I do now? How would Fred react? Terrible thoughts came to my mind at once. What if Lara was right and he left me right away? I walked out of the bathroom with the test in my hand, my shoulders sagging, and suddenly I ran into Lara. She gave me a quick look and said sarcastically that I put on some weight. Had your stomach grown? A chill ran down my spine. I hid the test behind my back and ran to the exit. Someone found out I was pregnant before I did. I couldn't believe it. But I was even more worried about Fred. Lara's words were still ringing in my head. He'll leave you at the first opportunity. Tears welled up in my eyes. No, I needed to confirm everything. The tests can be wrong. I immediately Googled the nearest clinic and rushed there. The doctor saw me right away, and so I lay on the couch, and the doctor declared that my future child was a demon. I couldn't believe it. And I was crying openly. How was that even possible? It was like a nightmare. As if hearing my thoughts, the doctor showed me the ultrasound. It became harder to breathe. Instead of a child, there was a little devil with horns and a tail. My vision immediately went dark. I almost fainted, and the doctor immediately put ammonia to my nose. The sharp smell brought me back to my senses, but it didn't make me feel any better. My child was a demon. And the doctor only carefully added that now emotional stress was not recommended. I could hurt the baby. I didn't want a baby, especially a monster. My eyes immediately filled with tears. I quietly asked if I could have an abortion, but the doctor shook his head, only with the permission of the child's father. I was terribly depressed, and I was terribly afraid to tell Fred about the pregnancy. After all, I was sure he would leave me, but was there any other way? I sobbed. No, Fred had to find out. With trembling hands, I dialed him and asked him to meet me in the park across the clinic. The wait was terrible. I imagined how Fred would react to the news of the pregnancy, and I almost cried. On top of that, I was shaking all over. Fred would leave me. Lara was right. When Fred arrived, he looked terribly excited and immediately gave me a protective hug, asking me what was wrong and why I was so pale. I looked into his eyes and could not utter it. My heart was pounding, and I took a deep breath and closed my eyes. "Come with me." Gathering my thoughts, I blurted out, "I'm pregnant," and then I looked down. I felt like the silence lasted forever. But Fred suddenly lifted my face by the chin and gently said that this was great news. He was smiling. "Oh, Fred, that's not all. Our baby is a monster." Fred immediately froze and asked, "Is this a joke?" "No, Fred, this isn't a joke. The doctor showed me the image. Our child is a real demon." I did not notice how I burst into tears, but Fred suddenly shook my hand firmly and snapped, "We're going back to the hospital." I asked why, but Fred didn't seem to notice me. Did he still want to have an abortion? I sobbed again. When we got to the reception desk, Fred asked us to see another doctor for some reason, but the receptionist said they didn't do that. But Fred was insistent. Apparently, he did not want this child so much that he demanded the director of the clinic. And so I was lying on the couch, and the doctor was again running the ultrasound sensor over my stomach. Without saying a word, Fred stared intently at the monitor, and then the doctor said that I would have no monster. I immediately jumped. "Is my child normal?" But the doctor just shook his head. There was no baby at all. I was not pregnant. I stared in shock, but half an hour ago, another doctor confirmed my pregnancy. Fred suddenly dropped his head, clearly upset. So he wanted me to be pregnant? "Fred, you didn't want me to have an abortion, did you?" Fred looked at me in horror. "Of course no. I just wanted to make sure. I wanted to see our baby." There was no baby. What was going on here anyway? I felt dizzy. Okay, that's enough. I needed to get some air. I jumped up and went into the corridor, but stopped at the turn. Lara was standing around the corner. I immediately crouched, carefully peeking out. What was she doing here? And suddenly Lara turned around. At the last second, I flattened myself against the wall. If only she didn't notice. I stood there for a while not breathing. Finally, I heard Lara's soft voice. That was close. But who was she talking to? I peeked around the corner and saw that Lara was holding something out to the doctor. I looked closer. Oh my god. It was the doctor who told me about the monster baby. Lara handed the doctor an envelope, thanking him for his help. She's not worthy of a guy like Fred. He should be mine. I was in shock. How could Lara do this to me? Because of her, I got through this living nightmare. I thought that I would lose everything, and this was because of jealousy? I was literally exploding inside, and I couldn't take it anymore. I came around the corner and shouted to Lara that I'd heard everything. I expected remorse, but Lara suddenly grinned maliciously and said that in any case, Fred was hers now. He loved me anyway after the news about the monster baby. I was about to answer her when Fred came up behind me and gently put his arm around my waist. He didn't even look at Lara. He just said, "I will never leave you. You are my family." He was not at all afraid of my pregnancy. But on the contrary, Fred suggested that we thought about a baby as beautiful as me. I was moved by his words. We smiled at each other and looked at Lara, who was red with anger. She ran out into the street in a rage, and Fred bent down and kissed me. And at that moment, all the bad things seemed to disappear. One kiss from Fred made me feel like the happiest person in the world. This story only confirmed that he was my true love. A year has passed since that incident, and now Fred and I have a baby, and he is the most beautiful baby in the world, not all like a monster. Although sometimes he does not let us sleep at night. I don't hold a grudge against Lara, because if it wasn't for her, we wouldn't have Billy. But since then, I choose my friends much more carefully. After all, a true friend will never plot against you. Did you like the video? Subscribe and like it. Support the channel. Thank you.